Dear students, I am Shubhda Chamoli, TGT Biology from Kendriya Vidyalaya number 1, Roorkee. Today we will be studying about chapter number 11 of class 10th, which is the human eye and the colorful world. So have you ever wondered how do we see this world? Yes, the human eye is the organ which helps us to see this colorful world. The human eye is like a camera. It has different parts: cornea, retina, iris, pupil and ciliary muscles. So now we will study about the function of each of its parts. Whatever light which enters into our eye, it is done through a transparent membrane called cornea. The lens system forms an image on a light sensitive screen, and this screen is called retina. The eye lens helps to focus the image of the object on the retina. Behind the cornea there is a muscular diaphragm called iris, which has an opening called pupil. And this is the function of the pupil to control the amount of light which enters into our eyes. The ciliary muscles helps to change the curvature of the lens and to change its focal length. And this is due to the ciliary muscles we are able to see the distant as well as the nearby objects clearly. Next is the working of human eye. The eye lens forms a real inverted image of the object on the retina. The light sensitive cells which are present in the retina then produce some electrical signals which are taken to the brain with the help of the optic nerves. The brain then processes these signals and then sends the message to the eye, and we see the object with correct orientation. Now comes the power of accommodation. Have you ever thought how our eyes is able to see both near and distant objects at the same time? So, the ability of the eye lens to see both near and distant objects by adjusting its focal length is called the power of accommodation of the eye. Here we come across 2 points, near point and far point. The minimum distance at which the eye can see objects clearly is termed to be as the near point or least distance of distinct vision. For a normal eye, this distance is of 25 cm. And the farthest distance up to which our eyes can see the objects clearly is termed to be as the far point of the eye. For a normal eye, it is between 25 cm and infinity. Now we will study about the defects of vision and their correction. So there are 3 defects of vision: myopia, hypermetropia and presbyopia. So let us start with myopia first. Myopia is also known as nearsightedness. It is the defect of vision in which a person can see nearby objects very clearly but is unable to see the distant objects clearly. So why does this happen? It happens because the image is formed in case of myopia in front of the retina. As you all are aware that in case of normal vision, the image is formed at retina. But in case of the defect of vision, which is myopia, the image is formed in front of retina. As you can see in the figure B, myopic eye is shown and the image is formed in front of the retina in case of the myopic eye. So why does this happen? This may be due to increase in curvature of the eye lens and increase in the length of the eyeball. How can we correct this defect? This defect can be corrected by using suitable concave lens. You can see in the figure C, correction for myopia, a concave lens is used for the correction of the defect of myopia. And as and when concave lens is used, the image is formed again at retina. Next defect of vision is hypermetropia or farsightedness. So, hypermetropia is a defect of vision in which a person can see distant objects clearly but is unable to see the nearby objects clearly. And this happens because the image is formed behind the retina in case of hypermetropia. As you can see in the diagram, the second figure shows that the image is forming behind the retina. So what can be the reason behind it? It may be due to the decrease in curvature of eye lens and decrease in the length of the eyeball. So how we are going to correct this defect of vision? This defect of vision can be corrected by using suitable convex lens, as it is clearly mentioned in the third figure that by using convex lens the image is again formed at the retina and the vision defect is corrected. Now the third type of vision defect is presbyopia. So as we age up, the power of accommodation of our eyes decreases. The elderly people cannot see nearby objects very comfortably and distinctly, and for this they need eyeglasses. This defect is called presbyopia. This happens due to gradual weakening of the ciliary muscles. As we age up, the ciliary muscles start weakening and the diminishing flexibility of the eye lens. This defect can be corrected by using suitable convex lens. Sometimes the elderly people in our home are not able to see both nearby and distant objects clearly. This defect can be corrected by using bifocal lenses. So what do we mean by bifocal lenses? Bifocal lenses consist of both concave and convex lens. The upper part is concave for correction of distant vision and the lower part is convex for correction of the near vision. Students, now we will see an
Vision is the
animation
dominant
which
sense
shows how
for
the
most
eyes
people with sight.
work.
The organ of sight is the eye. Think of it as a slightly irregular, hollow sphere that takes in light and translates it into images. If we enlarge the eye and look inside it, we can discover how that's done. Inside the eye are various structures working together to create an image the brain can understand. Among these are the cornea, a clear dome-like structure covering the iris or colored part of the eye, the lens directly below it, and the retina, which lines the back of the eye. The retina consists of thin layers of light-sensitive tissue. This candle can help us understand how the eye captures images and then sends them to the brain. First, the candlelight passes through the cornea. As it does, it's bent or refracted onto the lens. As the light passes through the lens, it's bent a second time. Finally, it arrives at the retina, where an image is formed. This double bending, though, has reversed the image and turned it upside down. If that was the end of the story, the world would always appear upside down. Fortunately, the image is turned right side up in the brain. Before that can happen, the image needs to travel as impulses along the optic nerve and enter the brain's occipital lobe. When the image forms there, it regains its proper perspective. Now let's consider two common conditions that cause blurry vision. The eye's shape is important for keeping things in focus. With normal vision, light focuses precisely on the retina at a location called the focal point. But what happens if the eye is longer than normal? The longer the eye, the more distance there is between the lens and retina. But the cornea and lens still bend light the same way. That means the focal point will be somewhere in front of the retina rather than on it. This makes it difficult to see things that are far away. A person with a long eye is said to be nearsighted. Glasses with concave lenses can correct nearsightedness. The lens widens the plane of light coming through the cornea. That pushes the focal point back onto the retina. Farsightedness is just the opposite. The eye's length is too short. When that happens, the focal point is behind the retina, so it's difficult to see things that are up close. Glasses with convex lenses narrow the plane of light. Narrowing the light passing through the cornea moves the focal point back onto the retina and can correct farsightedness.
So this animation explained very well the working of human eye. Next topic is refraction of light through a glass prism. Here a glass prism is taken as shown in the figure. When a ray of light passes through a glass prism, it gets bent twice at the air-glass interface and then at glass-air interface. So as you can see in this figure, the ray of light PE is entering into the prism, and then as the ray of light is moving from the rarer medium to the denser medium, it is bending towards the normal, and when it emerges out of the glass prism, it is moving from the denser medium to the rarer medium, and the ray of light is seen to be bending away from the normal. So you can very well see that PE is the incident ray, EF is the refracted ray, and FS is the emergent ray. The angle of incidence is shown by angle I, angle of refraction is shown by angle R, angle E is the angle of emergence. The emergent ray is deviated by an angle to the incident ray, and this angle is known as angle of deviation, that is angle D. Now comes dispersion of white light by a glass prism. Whenever a beam of white light is passed through a glass prism, it splits into its component, and there is observed a band of colors. This band of colors is known as a spectrum. As you can very well see in this figure, a white light is entering into the prism and it is getting split up inside the prism, which leads to the formation of band of colors, and this band of colors is known as a spectrum. This whole process or phenomenon is known as dispersion of white light. So the spectrum of white light consists of 7 colors. They are violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. VIBGYOR. The red light bends the least, as it is clearly mentioned in the figure, and the violet light bends the most. Next is recombination of the spectrum of white light produces white light. Here a beam of white light is passed through a glass prism. and as we have seen earlier in dispersion, that as soon as the white light enters into the glass prism, it splits up into its component colors due to dispersion. Now, when these colors are allowed to fall on an inverted glass prism, you can see here one more glass prism is taken which is inverted. So when the spectrum of the colors or the band of the colors falls onto the second prism, inverted glass prism, it again recombines to produce a white light.
Dispersion of white
Now
light
we will see
by a
an
glass
animation
prism.
which
Take
explains
a thick
dispersion
sheet of
white light
cardboard
by a prism
and make a small hole
recombination.
or narrow slit in its middle. Allow sunlight to fall on the narrow slit. This gives a narrow beam of white light. Now, take a glass prism and allow the light from the slit to fall on one of its faces as shown here. Turn the prism slowly until the light which comes out of it appears on the nearby screen. What do you observe? You will find a beautiful band of colors. Why does this happen? When a beam of white light is passed through a glass prism, it split up into a band of colors called spectrum. This is called dispersion of white light. The spectrum of white has colors violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. Vibgyor. The red light bends the least and the violet light bends the most. Isaac Newton was the first to use a glass prism to obtain the spectrum of sunlight. He tried to split the colors of the spectrum of white light further by using another similar prism. When a beam of white light is passed through a glass prism, it is split up into its component colors. When these colors are allowed to fall on an inverted glass prism, it recombines to produce white light.
So this animation clearly explained the dispersion of white light by a. Now let us study about rainbow formation. You all have observed rainbows, but ever you have thought how these rainbows are formed? Yes, a rainbow is also a natural spectrum which is caused by dispersion of sunlight by tiny water droplets present in the atmosphere after a rain shower. The incident sunlight with suitable angle of incidence is refracted, dispersed, internally reflected and finally again refracted out by the raindrops. So as you can see in this figure, there are point B, C and D. At point B, refraction is taking place when sunlight enters into the water droplet from the air. Then inside the water droplet, dispersion can be observed. Then at point C, total internal reflection is occurring, and at point D, refraction again takes place. Due to dispersion and internal reflection, different colors reach the eye of the observer. A prerequisite condition for rainbow to form is a rainbow is always formed in a direction opposite to that of sun. Let us now see an animation which shows how rainbow is
Rainbows
formed.
are one of the most beautiful sights in nature, and we usually see it on a rainy day. But you will be surprised to know that you can even see it on sunny days if you're near waterfalls or fountains. So what is really required for the rainbow to be formed? The two things that are required for the rainbow to appear are white light and tiny water droplets. The latter is quite important for its formation. In the rainy season, many water droplets are present in our atmosphere, and hence we mostly see the rainbow in this season. Okay, so how do these two combine together to form a rainbow? Well, the formation of the rainbow results from the simplest of optical phenomena known as refraction and total internal reflection. Yes, among these two, we know quite a lot about refraction of light. Okay, So let's see how sunlight and droplets interact with each other. First of all, suppose that we're looking up at a rainbow from some point on the surface of the earth. We see the colors of a rainbow in order: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet from top to bottom. We might not be able to see indigo that well because our eyes are not quite sensitive to that color. Now, as I told you, rainbows during the rainy season are formed due to the presence of water droplets in the atmosphere. There are many of these where a rainbow is formed. Say we are only looking at the red part of the rainbow. The simple reason that we're able to see anything around us is because the light from that particular object is traveling to our eyes. Similarly, the red light from the upper part of the rainbow is traveling to our eyes, enabling us to see it. But where is this red light coming from? In order to understand this, let's consider a single water droplet from this red region and suppose the white sunlight is incident at this point on it. The angle at which the light is incident is very important, and I will tell you why in a little while. It will reflect some of the light at the boundary and refract some of it. The reflected light is white light again, and it's going away from our eyes. So we ignore this as this light does not help in forming rainbows. But we know that the white light of sun is composed of 7 primary colors. It's VIBGYOR. And we also know that the prism will break this white light into its constituent colors when allowed to pass through it. A water droplet behaves exactly like a prism. It disperses the white sunlight at the entry point. What happens next? This dispersed light falls onto the rear side of the droplet, and each light color is again refracted by different angles. But wait a moment. Look at this point. Why is the light getting refracted in the same medium? Well, you must have assumed that it will pass through the air and not back through the water. This is happening because of an optical phenomenon known as total internal reflection. Let me quickly enlighten you about this. We know when the light travels from an optically denser to an optically rarer medium, it bends away from the normal. And greater the angle of incidence, greater will be the angle of refraction. But here's the interesting part. There is some angle called the critical angle at which the refracted ray will be perpendicular to the normal line. That's right. At this angle of incidence, we can see that the refracted ray is perpendicular to the normal. And if I further increase the angle of incidence, then the refracted ray will now travel through the incident medium. So if you notice, the ray is actually reflecting in the same medium. The same thing happens here in a water droplet as well. This angle of incidence at this surface for each colored light is such that they all bend in the same medium. So these different colored rays are now at the air-water interface again for the third time. This time, however, the total internal reflection does not occur and they bend in air. But notice that all the colors in air are now separated by quite an amount. The 3 refractions create the larger gap between these colors. All the droplets in this red portion of the rainbow behave in the same way. But wait a moment. These droplets are refracting the light of all colors. Then why are we able to see only the red color in this region of the rainbow? This is because only the red color from this region reaches our eyes. All the other colors are refracted at such a large angle that they do not reach our eyes on the ground. Same thing happens for the remaining regions of a rainbow as well. For instance, droplets present in the violet region also send the light back in the same way. But only the violet color reaches us and the remaining colors are not visible. I hope that you now have a basic understanding of how a rainbow forms in the sky. We will come up with more interesting topics in our future videos. So don't forget to tune in.
Rainbow formation is very well explained in this animation. Next topic is atmospheric refraction. So what is atmospheric refraction? Refraction of light by Earth's atmosphere is known as atmospheric refraction. So why does it occurs? It occurs due to the gradual change in the refractive index of the atmosphere. So the Earth's atmosphere consists of many different mediums, and when light travels through these mediums, the light reflects when passing through these different mediums, due to which the term used is atmospheric refraction. The refractive index of the atmosphere gradually increases towards the surface of the earth because the hot air above is less dense than the cool air below. So light gradually bends towards the normal. Thus the real position of a star is different from its apparent position. Now one of the example of atmospheric refraction is twinkling of stars. The star appears slightly higher than its actual position when viewed near the horizon. This apparent position is not stationary, but it keeps on changing, since the physical conditions of the Earth's atmosphere are also not stationary. Stars are very distant objects and they are approximate point-sized sources of light. So the light from the stars sometimes appears to be brighter and sometimes appears to be fainter, and it gives the effect of twinkling.
Topic: atmospheric
Here is
refraction.
another animation which explains why do stars seem
Why do
higher
stars
than
twinkle?
they actually are.
Because they blink their eyes.
Nah. The twinkling of stars is due to atmospheric refraction. Atmospheric refraction is the bending of light caused by the Earth's atmosphere.
I thought atmospheric refraction is the bending of my body due to Earth's atmosphere.
Oh, please listen. Earth's atmosphere is changing continuously. When the light of a star travels through space towards us, the continuously changing Earth's atmosphere refracts or bends the light by different amounts and in different directions every moment. When the atmosphere refracts more starlight towards us, the star appears bright, and when the atmosphere refracts less starlight, the star appears dim. In this way, the amount of starlight reaching our eyes increases and decreases, causing the star to appear twinkling. Topic: atmospheric refraction.
Hooray!
Why do stars seem higher than they actually are? Hey, that is not the actual position of the star. Please listen. Fine, then bear the consequences. See, I told you. Do you know why this happens? This happens because of atmospheric refraction. Atmospheric refraction is the refraction or bending of light caused by the Earth's atmosphere. It went over your head, right? No worries. Let me explain it to you in detail. In the Earth's atmosphere, the air closer to the Earth's surface is denser due to gravity.
Oh.
But as we move higher, the air density goes on decreasing. This forms different media of air. The layer of air closer to the Earth's surface forms the denser medium, while the layer of air higher up in the sky forms the rarer medium. Now, when the light of a star enters our atmosphere and passes from one medium to another, atmospheric refraction takes place and the light bends. When this light reaches our eyes trace it backward as a straight line. Due to this, the light appears to come from a higher point. Hence, the star seems to be higher than it actually is.
Let's move to another topic, which is advanced sunrise and delayed sunset. Actually, students, the sun is visible to us about 2 minutes before the actual sunrise and about 2 minutes after the actual sunset. And it all occurs due to the same phenomenon, which is atmospheric refraction. The apparent flattening of the sun's disk at sunrise and at sunset is also due to atmospheric refraction. So here is another animation which explains advanced sunrise and delayed sunset.
Atmospheric refraction.
Let us see it.
We've observed some natural phenomena in our daily life, such as the apparent random wavering or flickering of objects seen through a turbulent stream of hot air rising above a fire or a radiator. The twinkling of stars is a similar phenomenon. This wavering is thus an effect of atmospheric refraction, refraction of light by the Earth's atmosphere in our local environment. Let us discuss about them. Twinkling of stars. The twinkling of a star is due to atmospheric refraction of starlight. The scientific name for the twinkling of stars is stellar scintillation or astronomical scintillation. Stars twinkle when we see them from the Earth's surface because we are viewing them through thick layers of turbulent, moving air in the Earth's atmosphere. Stars, except for the sun, appear as tiny dots in the sky. As the light travels through the many layers of the Earth's atmosphere, the light of the star is bent, refracted many times, and in random directions. Light is bent when it hits a change in density, like a pocket of cold air or hot air. This random refraction results in the star winking out. It looks as though the star moves a bit, and our eye interprets this as twinkling. Stars closer to the horizon appear to twinkle more than stars that are overhead. This is because the light of stars near the horizon has to travel through more air than the light of stars overhead, and so is subject to more refraction. Also, planets do not usually twinkle because they are so close to us. They appear big enough that the twinkling is not noticeable, except when the air is extremely turbulent. Stars would not appear to twinkle if we viewed them from outer space or from a planet or moon that didn't have an atmosphere. Apparent position of sun. Because of atmospheric refraction, we do not see the sun or the stars in its true position except when it is directly overhead. As a ray of light from the sun enters Earth's atmospheric at B, it continuously bends towards the radius of the Earth. The ray of light will reach the observer at O, as if it had come in the direction AO instead of in its true direction BO. Consequently, we do not see the true position of the sun. It is due to atmospheric refraction that the sun is visible before actual sunrise and after actual sunset. Do you know this fact? The sun appears to rise 2 minutes before the actual rise, and it continues to be seen 2 minutes after it has actually set. Therefore, the day becomes longer by 4 minutes due to atmospheric refraction.
So this was an informative animation about the advanced sunrise and delayed sunset. Now let us move to another topic, that is scattering of light. When a beam of light passes through a colloidal solution, the path of the light becomes visible. And why does this becomes visible? Due to the scattering of light by the colloid particles. And this effect is known as Tyndall effect. In the same manner, Earth's atmosphere also contains different particles. It contains air molecules, water droplets, dust, smoke, etc. So when sunlight passes through the atmosphere, the path of the light becomes visible due to the scattering of light by these particles. The color of the scattered light depends upon the size of the scattering particles. Very fine particles scatter blue light, while the larger particles scatter different colors of light. Next example of scattering of light is the blue color of the sky. The color of the scattered light depends on the size of the scattering particles. Very fine particles scatter mainly blue light, while if the particle is of larger size, they will scatter light of longer wavelengths. And if the scattering particle has very large size, then the scattered light may even appear to be white. So when sunlight passes through the atmosphere, the fine particles present in the atmosphere scatter blue color more strongly than the red, and this is the reason why the sky appears blue. If in case the earth did not had any atmosphere, scattering of light would not have been possible and the sky would appear dark. And this is the reason why the sky appears dark at very high altitudes.
Tyndall effect.
Let us
Why does the sky appear blue?
which
Don't know
tells
the answer?
why the
No
sky
worries.
appears
We shall find the solution. It is such a beautiful rainbow. Have you ever wondered how it is formed? A rainbow is formed when raindrops split sunlight into different colors. Sunlight, or white light, consists of many colors. However, only a few of them are visible to us. A band of these visible colors is called a visible spectrum. When we see a rainbow, our brain and eyes distinguish the visible spectrum into 7 main colors, namely red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
Aha! Ah!
Hey, did you notice that the size of the balls increased? Yes, you guessed right. The balls represent the different colors of a rainbow in increasing order of their wavelengths. Wavelength is the distance between consecutive crests or consecutive troughs in a wave. In a rainbow, as we move from violet to red, the wavelength of colors increases. Violet has the shortest wavelength, while red has the longest wavelength. Do you think that our eyes have a natural inclination towards blue as compared to violet? Yes, this is one of the reasons why our sky appears blue and not violet. To understand this, first, let us study about Tyndall effect. Tyndall effect is a phenomenon in which a beam of light scatters on striking the particles present in its path. This scattering of light is responsible for the blue color of the sky. We know that our atmosphere primarily consists of oxygen and nitrogen particles, along with dust, smoke, and other particles in comparatively smaller proportions. The size of these particles in the atmosphere is responsible for the color of scattered light. When the sunlight strikes particles of dust, smoke, etc., which are bigger than the wavelength of sunlight, all the colors of sunlight are equally scattered. As a result, the scattered light appears white. However, when the sunlight strikes particles of oxygen and nitrogen, which are smaller than the wavelength of sunlight, the colors of sunlight having shorter wavelengths, that is, blue and violet, are much more scattered than colors having longer wavelengths. But our eyes are much more sensitive to blue color as compared to violet. Hence, the sky appears blue to us.
This video explained the blue color of the sky in a very informative manner. Now let's come to another topic, that is the color of the sky at sunrise and sunset. So students, many times we have seen that during the sunrise and sunset the color of the sky appears to be reddish orange in color. So why does this happens? At sunrise and at sunset the sun is near the horizon and the light from the sun travels through the thicker layers of the atmosphere and longer distance through the atmosphere. Near the horizon, most of the blue color gets scattered away by the particles of the air, and the red light and longer wavelengths only reaches our eyes. And this is the reason why the sun appears reddish at sunrise and at sunset.
Color of the sun
So
at
here is
sunrise
an
and
animation
sunset.
which shows color
Let us
of
do
the
an
sun at
activity to
sunrise
understand
and
the
sunset.
blue color of
Let
the
us
sky
watch this.
and the reddish appearance of the sun at the sunrise or sunset. Place a strong source S of white light at the focus of a converging lens L1. This lens provides a parallel beam of light. Allow the beam of light to pass through a transparent glass tank T containing clear water. Allow the beam of light to pass through a circular hole C made in a cardboard. Obtain a sharp image of the circular hole on a screen MN using a second converging lens L2 as shown here. Dissolve about 200 grams of sodium thiosulfate hypo in about 2 liters of clean water taken in the tank. Add about 1 to 2 milliliter of concentrated sulfuric acid to the water. What do you observe? You will find the fine microscopic sulfur particles precipitating in about 2 to 3 minutes. As the sulfur particles begin to form, you can observe the blue light from the 3 sides of the glass tank. This is due to the scattering of short wavelengths by minute colloidal sulfur particles. Observe the color of the transmitted light from the 4th side of the glass tank, the circular hole. It is interesting to observe at first the orange-red color and then the bright crimson-red color on the screen. This activity demonstrates the scattering of light that helps you to understand the bluish color of the sky and the reddish appearance of the sun at the sunrise or the sunset. Light from the sun near the horizon passes through the thicker layers of air and larger distance in the Earth's atmosphere before reaching our eyes. However, light from the sun overhead would travel relatively shorter distance. At noon, the sun appears white as only a little of the blue and violet colors are scattered. Near the horizon, most of the blue light and shorter wavelengths are scattered away by the particles. Therefore, the light that reaches our eyes is of longer wavelengths. This gives rise to the reddish appearance of the sun.
So, this particular animation has explained in a very informative manner the color of the sun at sunrise and sunset. With this we complete chapter 11, Human Eye and the Colorful World. Thank you very much.